It's Florence and the Machine, baby. I love so many Florence and the Machine lyrics, but I promised to tell you the lyric that I have tattooed on my arm, and that is... Okay, welcome to my slumber party. We're at sleepover now, we're at a slumber party. So get cozy, get a hot drink. I'm in my PJs, we are surpassing our normal level of coziness. We are going for gold today. If you are watching this on the day it comes out, that means it is a week before Halloween 2025, which means that it is a week before the 6th Florence and the Machine album comes out. A little something about me, I love Florence the Machine. I have loved her forever. I've loved her ever since my Uncle Graham bought me a copy of Lungs when I was 11, and I just fell in love with the drama and the lyricism and the witchiness and everything about her. I just love. And so I'm super excited for the new album. When I am recording this, we have 2 songs and I like them and this is good. And it got me thinking.
I couldn't help but wonder.
I really like a certain genre of music which speaks to the kind of spirituality that I'm trying to talk about on this channel. This kind of spirituality which is really grappling with what does it mean to exist in this point in a history? What does it mean to exist with all of the scientific knowledge we have and all of the realities of the world around us? And then what does it mean to butt up against the veil that still exists? What does it mean to grapple with the mysteries that we humans still don't know the answers to, or we can't access and we will never be able to access? What does it mean to kind of hold those 2 identities together in one head and to build an authentic way of thinking where the world still looks beautiful and interesting and fun while we grapple with all of the darkness and scariness and unsureness. So today, in honour of the new Florence and the Machine album, I wanted to share some music with you. I wanted to share with you some artists that I think get it and some songs that I think have some really interesting philosophy that grapples with these kind of mixed identities and grapple with what it means to have some big spiritual questions in the 21st century. One of the songs I'm going to be sharing with you is the Florence and the Machine song that I have tattooed on my arm. So stick around to the end of the video if you want to find out which song that is. So I'll set the vibe for you. We're at the slumber party. We've watched the scary movie. We've eaten way too much sugar. And now we're sharing a pair of headphones and we are getting into some really deep chats about philosophy. So hi, if you're new, I'm Lucy. I make content about environmentalism, connecting with nature, and I like to share about rebuilding your spirituality as an ex-religious atheist. That is definitely the vibe of the songs we're getting into today. So if that is your vibe too, please subscribe. So, if you're ready, I've got a playlist for you. So the characteristics of the songs I want to share with you today, they ask big questions, they explore big questions. Some of them have a slightly witchy bent, some of them have a ex-religious bent, or they kind of grapple with religious themes, and all of them are a little bit dramatic. I am someone who likes my music theatrical, dramatic. I want choral, I want something I can dance to. I want vocals that enter my soul through some sort of haunted passage that I didn't know was there. So if that's the kind of music you're into, these songs are not going to be revelatory to you. You're going to know all of these artists. But I just wanted to really talk about these songs. So I wanted to start with some honourable mentions. These are songs that kind of have a bit of the energy that I'm talking about, but they're not quite the full package, but they are still bangers and I like them. And I have 4 in this category. So the first one on my honourable mentions just feels a little bit rogue. It's Everything is Romantic from Brat. I love a dance anthem. I love dance music. I love dance music when it's got a repetitive lyric that I can really get into that vibe. I think that Everything is Romantic is such a beautiful, what's the word? Sentiment. Oh my God, sentiment. Jesus Christ. On a plastic sign. I think that idea, everything is romantic, is such a beautiful sentiment. And then obviously she lists things that are, you know, a bit tacky, bad tattoos on leather tanned skin, etc. And I really love this emphasis on falling in love again and again. I think that's how it feels when you get really attuned with your spirituality, when you get to see the world in this really beautiful way and you just see the good in everything, and you see the potential for good in everything, and you see the kind of human intention behind everything. Hank Green has a really lovely video about the climate crisis where he talks about how all of the problems that humans have caused with the climate crisis, it's all because we love each other. And the driving force behind all of the inventions that we have done to industrialize and have had these consequences like climate change, they're all because people wanted to have kids, and then they wanted those kids to have a great quality of life. So they found ways to improve living standards. And those inventions have caused issues, but humans will fix them. I mean, go and watch how Hank Green says it. But it's that sentiment that in everything bad, there is a little bit of good, and in everything good, there's a little bit of bad. But there is love to be seen everywhere. Also, if you're someone who really likes the plastic Jesus sign energy and the kind of like tacky religious memorabilia, I really want to recommend this short story collection to you. It's called The Wrong Heaven by Amy Bonifons, and it has one of my favourite short stories ever in it, which is about a woman who turns into a horse. But the title story of this collection is about a tacky, glowing Jesus figurine that comes to life and talks to the main character. So if you like that specific imagery from Everything is Romantic, that's my recommend for you. Okay, the next honourable mention is only on this list because it's explicitly not atheist. It mentions God in the lyrics, but I think it's something that really connects me to the joy of being in the human body and the joy of movement. This song is God Gave Me Feet for Dancing by Ezra Collective, which is from just an extraordinary album that I love so much. It's just soulful, and it gets you really, it's one of these ones where you just have to sway to, and it's all about kind of movement and parties and this kind of collective human dance that we're all kind of doing. It's got this line in it, here we are, identical strangers, but we move the same way. And it's kind of about the ways that all of humans are similar in certain ways. Like, if you give us a good beat, we're all doing this, you know? And it doesn't matter where we're from in the world, it doesn't matter our background. More connects us than divides us. And that is the energy that I get from God Gave Me Feet for Dancing. It's one of these. It's worth a listen, put it on the list. The next one is here because I couldn't make this list without mentioning her. She's the witchiest artist in town, and I love her for it. Honestly, the reason she's on the honourable mentions is she's just like full witch. She's not on this kind of like, ooh, fence-sitting cusp that I like to explore. She's just gone straight for the witchcraft, and I love her for that. It's Kiki Rockwell. My favourite song of hers is Same Old Energy, which is about how patriarchy is repeated through history and about how women have resisted patriarchy through history. And I love on her albums, she's inspired by all this old folk music, and so it really feels like you're listening to something that someone could have played for you hundreds of years ago, but you know, like if they were really cool. And yeah, her music's just a vibe. Love it. I have one last thing on the honourable mentions. Swifties, I'm just going to chuck you a bone. My favourite Taylor Swift song is False God because I like religious imagery in music, and I really like how smooth that track is. I really like the jazz. I really like I think it's a saxophone sound through it. Yeah, I really like that song. I like Lover. I'm a Lover era girly. So Swifties, I like False God. Okay, now we're getting into our main event. This is the category of songs that have something really interesting to say philosophically, and these are all songs that I think they just get it. The artists that have written these songs are really grappling with what it means to be human, what it means to not know if there is a God, what it means to explore that. And their music's really beautiful, and it makes me feel hopeful at the same time as grappling with those themes, which can be quite dark. If you come from a religious background and go through a faith crisis, the days of that faith crisis are pretty dark. So I think it's just always wonderful when you find music that kind of brings you out the other side of that and that finds hope in what can be quite a nihilistic worldview, that there's no God and nothing matters. I think there's no God and everything matters. Which brings me to my first song, Everything Matters by Aurora. I adore Aurora. She's so good live. She's so authentic and she sees the world in such a beautiful way. I love watching her interviews. I'm not someone that watches lots of celebrity interviews, but I love watching the way Aurora will just get distracted by something beautiful in the room.
Jeg har veldig lyst til å ta på ting. Jeg har kjempelyst til å ta på teppet. Oi, nå.
Everything is romantic to Aurora. She really gets it. Everything Matters is a song that really grapples with scale. She's got this line, here we are, an atom and a star. It's this idea that the same matter is running through everything. One of the ideas that I really loved learning about when I was exploring my spirituality was the idea of fractals. Fractals are repeating patterns that we see across nature, that we see at different scales. They're kind of patterns that are based on the base geometry and the base physics of the universe. So it doesn't matter what the scale is, we'll see the same pattern. So examples are the way that our veins are constructed through our body is the same as looking at the map of rivers, even though they're on such different scales. Or the veins of a leaf or the forks of lightning, it's all that same pattern. It's also something we see a lot with spirals in plants or just kind of symmetry in plants. There's a lot of places where the plants will have the same symmetry no matter what the scale is. And I think that's what Aurora's talking about. I think that's something that can be a really helpful thing to think about on the days when you feel like your life is too small and insignificant to matter. We kind of hold both of these ideas in our head of the scale of the universe compared to the scale of our lives. And I think, you know, in the scale of the universe, we are a speck. But in the scale of our lives, we can do a lot of good for the people around us and we can make a massive impact on our communities. And there are people that love us and they really care that we're here. And we are part of nature. The way that we are constructed is the same as the rest of nature is constructed. And we're just a part of this beautiful, crazy system that led to life and led to all of the wonderful things in the world. And in that way, everything matters because it doesn't matter on what scale good things happen because there are other things on that scale too that are impacted by it. I learned all about fractals in this book, which if you're someone who's looking for a scientific way to explore your spirituality, he definitely has some like woo ideas about the way that intelligence works. He talks about scales of intelligence in this really interesting way, but I didn't hate those ideas. I think they're really interesting, but he talks about things like fractals and cycles and patterns in nature that for me really sparked something about how the world works and my place in it. So my second book rec in this, apparently this is now a book rec video as well as music recs, is The Web of Meaning by Jeremy Lent. I'm also going to add an honourable mention here for The Seed by Aurora, which is about how seeds break up through darkness and they don't know what the plan is, they don't know where they're going, but they do it anyway and they unfurl. And it's also about the climate crisis and about how we need to look after the earth, which we love on this channel. So The Seed can be another honourable mention. Speaking of having no plan, that's my next song, No Plan by Hozier. I feel like Hozier is an artist that really gets it. He obviously is an Irish artist and I feel like a lot of the Celtic ideas that have really inspired my spiritual journey are part of his. He's so private that we don't know much about him, but I love that he has those boundaries. The thing that I really grapple with no plan is it's this kind of thing of, well, there's no God, there's no plan, and it's about, you know, enjoying what we've got and what time we have on earth. He's got this line about watch the sunlight fade, it's getting late, and you know, life is but a brief candle. We don't have much time here, and so it's so important that we squeeze the marrow out of what we can get out of life and the kind of love and joy and connection that we can get out of life while we're here. The other lyric that I love in No Plan is there's no plan, there's no hand on the rain. And I think one of the things that's really hard to deconstruct when you leave a faith is this idea that there are no rules anymore. You know, there's no one is making this up. This is just happening. No one's going to tell off the bad people. No one's going to fix the world for the good people that deserve it. You know, we're all just vibing here. I think sometimes as well when we deconstruct religion, we don't realise how many rules live inside us. A big part of my religious deconstruction was deconstructing a load of stuff about my gender presentation and this idea of what it means to be a good woman. And I don't remember ever being taught any of that, but I had all of this like stuff around beauty and presentation that I had to unpack and learn that there aren't actually any rules about. I can make up my own rules and I can drive my own chariot in whatever direction I choose. I don't know where that chariot metaphor came from, but we're going to leave it in the video. While we're on this ex-religious vibe, I want to talk about Paris Paloma's song Notre Dame. The chorals on this song are so beautiful, and at the end of the song the music cuts out and it's a cappella and it's just floating upwards, and it's just beautiful. And she's supporting Florence on the tour, and we managed to get tickets, so it's going to be a good day when we get to see Paris Paloma and Florence the Machine in one gig. Notre Dame is such a beautiful song because it really explores the emotions that happen when we enter a religious building, and the way that it can be so moving to go into a church or a cathedral, and you've got these kind of hushed tones and you've got the incense. The narrator of the song, I think it must be based on Quasimodo from The Hunchback of Notre Dame, because they're up in the tower and looking down on the worshippers below. A lot of the song is about feeling out of place, and I'm sure that's something that will resonate with listeners who have a disability, is that idea of feeling a little bit othered or removed and considered different. From an ex-religious point of view, I find it really moving because when I left religion, I found that I suddenly felt really on the outside of that community. I think it's super weird to be brought up in a cultural space and have it be a big part of your identity, and then your own brain is the thing that pulls you out of that. And it's so weird for it still to be your cultural heritage, but for your identity to shift so dramatically and to be like, you are not that anymore. You are not part of that community. You do not believe. You are on the outside. It's super hard to find the kind of communities that coalesce around a religious space in other areas of your life. My experience of growing up in the church was I met so many different people through church that I would never have met these people. We were from completely different backgrounds, completely different socioeconomic groups. We're a real variety. I think we can't overstate the value that free spaces that welcome anyone in have on a community. And it is super weird to be cut off from that because of the way my brain works and because of the conclusions I've come to. There's this bit where the narrator is looking down from the tower and says, I enjoy just being able to be a witness of the loneliness and be a higher power in case there isn't one. I'm not a higher power, I just live in the ceiling because I'm lonely on the fringes and it gives my life some meaning. Like, the idea of bearing witness to what people are going through is something that means so much to me. Bearing witness to the world around us in case there isn't someone else doing that, in case there isn't a higher power doing that. For the first time this year, we went to a stone circle for the summer solstice and we witnessed the sunrise on the longest day of the year. We watched the sun come up and we were really lucky because it was really clear and beautiful. And the sun was massive. Like, I don't know what was happening with the angles or whatever, but the sun was so huge and so orange and it was so good. But it's that idea of observance and watching the world around us and bearing witness to all of this amazing beauty that we live among, but also bearing witness to the, devastating things that happen in this world. Because I'm not someone that believes in prayer, I don't think that good intentions and good thoughts are going to make any impact in cases where we can really step in and make some difference. But sometimes things happen in life that, there is no thing to do. There is nothing that can be done. And all that we can do in those circumstances is we can be there with those people and we can bear witness to people and we can say, I love you and I see what you're going through. And the idea that we can be that for the people around us and we can just be the person wishing people well in those circumstances where nothing can be done, that is really powerful to me. And so much of the imagery in that song is really powerful to me. And yeah, good job, Paris Paloma. I thought she topped it with Labour, but damn it, yeah. And also, I think that song's a grower. Like, I don't think I realised when I first listened to that song, I thought, oh, this is nice, I like cathedrals, and Notre Dame means Our Lady, and I'm ex-Catholic, so, Mary is a big deal in Catholicism. I was like, oh, I like all of this imagery, but the more I listen to it, the more I really get from that song. So, yeah. Nailed it, girl. Thank you so much. Okay, we have 2 songs left. The next artist is someone that, honestly, I don't like all of her music. A lot of it's about drugs, which I don't really vibe with, just personally. But I love, love, love this opener to her new album. Oh shit, are they them? She, her. She, her pronouns. But with fun gender confusion energy. This is Lorde, and it's the opening song from her new album. The song is called Hammer, and there are 2 lyrics in this song that I particularly want to discuss. One is the lyric that gives the song its title. It's this line, I don't know if it's love or if it's ovulation. When you're holding a hammer, everything looks like a nail. It's obviously this thing of people who experience ovulation. It's a time when your hormones go crazy, and it can be hard to work out where your emotions end and your physical processes of your body start. And I really love this because it speaks to me of what it means to be a brain locked in a body, and to be a brain that is kind of at the whims of what's going on in that body and the hormones. I think so often we are taught to, or you know, we get the impression that we exist only up here and we don't exist in our whole bodies. But one of the biggest lessons I've learned as I age is how much what I do with my body impacts how I feel. If I feel rubbish and then I do a workout, I feel better because my brain is connected to my body and is connected to everything else that's happening. And that's just part of having a human body. I also think that this idea of us living in our heads and not our bodies is really connected to the concept of the soul. And there's this idea of mind-body duality where you have a body that is separate from your mind. It's this idea that our true selves are separate from our bodies. And the idea that you could be in love just because you're ovulating connects us straight back to our bodies and puts us straight back in the world and makes us part of nature, which I think we are part of nature, and I think we don't think of ourselves enough as part of nature and as part of the natural system. And I think that's the root of so many problems in the world, is people don't realise how deeply connected they are to nature. And maybe if they realised they lived in their bodies, that would start that process. The other line that I really love in this song is the line, I'm ready to live like I don't have the answers. And this is exactly the point where I feel like I'm at in lots of ways. I think it's this acceptance that, you know, I could be wrong about loads of stuff. Maybe there is a God, that'd be great, but I don't know. And maybe there are things that I just can't perceive and can't understand. But with the things that I do know to be true, which are really basic things like treat other people as you want to be treated and, you know, try and do good. I think there is a kind of a wisdom that creeps in where you go, we don't have to answer all of these questions to still have a really meaningful life and to still have a lot of purpose and forward momentum and joy in our life. I also think Lorde is about the same age as me, and I feel like this is a realization that maybe hits around our age, which is almost 30. We're actually really fine about turning 30. It's actually gonna be so fine, and I'm not freaking out at all. I think Lorde and I are about the same age, and this is actually an age where a lot of people go through a faith crisis and start to come out the other side. I'm going to make a video on this idea of the 5 stages of faith and the faith crisis that happens in your late 20s, because I just don't think people know that this happens to so many people in their late 20s. You kind of go in and you go through and you go out the other side, and you've kind of then got this more nuanced and complex way of looking at the world, which involves being chill with not having the answers to everything anymore. And I just think there's so much wisdom in that idea, and yeah, I really love it, and I love that song. And also the production on this album is so cool. There's so much percussive vocal as background music in this album, and it's just like, it just is so cool. It gets a bit sexy for me at a couple of points, but that's a personal preference. Like I said, I don't like all of her music, but Hammer all day. Okay, last song. It's Florence and the Machine, baby. So I love so many Florence and the Machine lyrics. Her music speaks to me so much. It just, you know, reaches into my soul and pulls it out of my head. There's a line I really love from Everybody's Scream, which is one of the singles that we've got so far from the new album, which is the magic and the misery, the madness and the mystery. And I think that just encapsulates so much about what I think about what life is and what the big questions are about life. And we have these kind of really beautiful, magical things, and then we have really terrible, miserable things. And sometimes you look at the world and you think, oh, this is crazy, and you have all these questions about it. And I think it's so fun to grapple with all of that, and I think Florence does too. And I think that's why I like her music so much. But I promised to tell you the lyric that I have tattooed on my arm, and that is, Heaven is here. And the reason that I loved this lyric so much to get it permanently inked onto my body is because it sums up a really central philosophy for me. So I'm a massive fan of This American Life, and there's an episode of This American Life which features an interview with an evangelical preacher. The episode is called Heretics because it's about this preacher called Carlton Pearson, who was from a really fire and brimstone version of Christianity, and then he stopped believing in hell. And the way he described it is when he looked around at the earth and he saw the horrible things that happen on this planet every day, he realised that he didn't interpret the Bible in the same way anymore. He thought that hell existed on earth. We didn't need to imagine any place after death that was horrendous because he was watching famine on TV and he thought, this is awful. And when God is saying we need to bring about the kingdom of heaven on earth, he was saying, hey guys, look at all this that's happening. You need to sort it out. We need to make this more like heaven. And being an atheist, I don't believe in an afterlife. I don't believe in heaven and hell. So I believe that any hell that exists here on earth, and any heaven that could exist exists here on earth. I'm not just a fan of This American Life, I'm a fan of lots of human journalism style radio. I was listening to this interview with a radio producer, I'll put their name here, who said that the post-it that they have on their desk at work is "Utopia is for walking." And the idea of that quote is, utopia is not something that is possible to build. Heaven is not something that is possible to build. A perfect world is not something that is possible. But as a blueprint that we can walk towards, as something we can work to build and work to approach, utopia is perfect for that. The concept of heaven or the concept of utopia is perfect for that. And I really believe that part of my responsibility as a human being is to do whatever I can to make the world better and to move towards heaven on earth. And I also think that the world is so beautiful and I get to experience really beautiful moments with my friends and family where we're together and we laugh and we love each other. And I think that's probably all the heaven we're ever gonna get. But I think it's pretty fucking sick. And I think heaven is here. So, thank you so much for coming to my sleepover. I really hope I haven't talked you to sleep. If so, I'll see you in the morning. And if you made it to the end of the video, I think you need to subscribe because we know each other too well now. Bonds are formed at sleepovers and I think we've seen that today. So thank you so much for watching. If you have any music recs for me or things that you think I would like, please drop them in the comments. I would love to see the cool stuff that you guys love and that means something to you. I'll be back next week with a Halloween video that I'm very excited about. And so unless you are just binging Florence the Machine that day, I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye.